Hey, good people. Welcome to the Evolving Education Project podcast, hosted by me, Dr. Tiffany Amniachai, and friends, where the educational joys, passions, interests, and inquiries of people of color are centered. This is episode 34, where my guest describes the work of the nonprofit organization Black Boys Read Too, based in Buffalo, New York. She explores the significance of community engagement through programs like barbershop book clubs offered through the organization, which aim to create safe spaces for young boys to read and express themselves. Also discussed is the importance of providing books that reflect the experiences and identities of Black boys, celebrating joy and literacy, and the ongoing efforts to change the narrative around reading for Black boys. We would like to begin by shouting out the cities of our newest listeners. We have new listeners in West Haven, Connecticut, Rockford, Illinois, Columbus, Ohio, Fort Worth, Texas, Concord, California, New York, and international listeners in Milton Keynes, a city in Buckinghamshire, England, Osaka, Japan, Izmir Province, Turkey, Johannesburg, South Africa, and Berlin, Germany. Our audience is growing, y'all, and we know it's because of word of mouth. Thank you. We appreciate y'all for pressing play and listening in your car, at the gym, on your walk, while you cook and clean, or tend to those babies, when and wherever. Please continue to share this podcast with others. This episode features the work of nonprofit organization Black Boys Read Too, Part 4 of our Black Boy Masculinities Play Literacies and Black Male Teachers series, the final episode in this series. To start from the beginning of the series, go to episode 31 and listen all the way through. We don't want you to miss any part of this powerful series, which is inspired by the book Toward a Black Boy Crit Pedagogy, Black Boys, Male Teachers, and Early Childhood Classroom Practices by Dr. Nathaniel Bryan. Today, we are in conversation with Rukiah Simmons, the co-founder and executive director of Black Boys Read Too. Black Boys Read Too was founded on the belief that African American boys should be given every opportunity possible to develop literacy skills and immerse themselves in the joys of reading. Therefore, this organization makes books more accessible to communities to inspire a new generation of lifelong readers through their barbershop bookshelf program, barbershop book clubs, and other literacy pop-up events. Specifically, Black Boys Read Too strategically places bookshelves in barbershops and community spaces like Boys and Girls Clubs and children's clinic waiting rooms. The mission of Black Boys Read Too is to break the cycle of illiteracy and encourage African American boys to foster a love for reading. They seek to address the large disparities in literacy achievement by getting books in children's hands by any means necessary. Rukiah Simmons serves as the co-founder and executive director of Black Boys Read Too, a transformative initiative born out of her observation of students struggling to meet reading benchmarks due to limited access to books beyond the classroom. She initiated creative solutions to ensure books reached students, with a particular focus on fostering a love for reading through Black protagonists, heroes, and role models. Rukiah's dedication extends to community service with organizations such as Open Buffalo, the Buffalo Urban League Young Professionals, and the Evolving Education Project podcast. Yes, she creates the beautiful trailers for our series that you see circulated on YouTube and social media. By day, Rukiah serves as the manager of curriculum instruction and development for the Say Yes Little Scholars program, overseeing teaching staff across 7 sites. Committed to supporting teachers, Rukiah actively provides resources and professional development opportunities, recognizing the impact on the community's future. She was also a finalist for the 2021, 2022, and 2023 Excellence in Education Award for 4th through 6th grade Teacher of the Year in Western New York. Okay, I'm so excited about this conversation. Let's listen in. Thank you for doing this. I'm so happy to have you here. So we'll have Rukiah back for like how she's involved in the Evolving Education Project and all that. But I really want to talk about her awesome organization. So I'm going to try to stay focused on that because that's what this episode is about. Black Boys Read Too. But that's what we're going to be talking about. But I do like to show how we're connected because I think it's really cool how we're connected.
Yes.
So how do we know each other, Rukiah? I'm going to see if you get it right. This is a test.
So we originally met with Urban League Young Professionals.
Yes.
And I believe you were the education committee chair at the time. And I got involved, and we were doing youth book clubs, essentially, book studies at the Jefferson Library. And then after that, I had the privilege of taking your class. And then we've just stayed connected since then.
Yes, you passed the test, Rakaya.
Thank you.
And I just want to say that I knew Rakaya. I'm not surprised by anything that she's doing now, because from the moment that I got to meet you and through working together with the Buffalo Urban League Young Professionals in the social justice literacy workshops, you just had such a commitment to youth, to education, and you got to work. You are somebody who like does the work. Like it's not talk. I think you're someone who understands that the work needs to be done, and so you do it. And I've noticed that about you from the very first time I met you, and it's not a big deal, and it's just like, yeah, what needs to be done, and I'm just going to do it. And she's excellent.
Thank you.
She's excellent at whatever she does. So like I'm just so happy to see where you are now with Black Boys Read too. You always had that passion and that love for our community and our people in you. Even when I had you in class as a student, like she was coming, she was teaching too. She was coming in like just doing it ready and asking very smart questions and challenging questions and really wanting to get to the root of what we doing for our communities. Like really to, and I was like, oh, okay, we and not only, she also, when you see those beautiful trailers, which we'll talk about her process for that in another episode for our Evolving Education Project series, that is Rakaya Simmons' work. She has been with us from the very beginning. I think probably the only person that has been with us from the very beginning. So she is making sacrifice. I don't know how she do it, but she always helped me out. But I don't know how she do it because she's doing 50 million things. And you were a teacher. Tell us about that. Now you're at Say Yes. Tell us about being a teacher and or wherever. If you've done a lot of things, so I don't want to limit you to that. So like, tell us about your journey to here a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I would have to start with even before I was a teacher. So I would have to go
Yeah.
back to when I worked for Say Yes the first time. So I
Yeah.
used to be a community schools navigator. And in a nutshell, a community schools navigator is in the school building. And the idea is to create Saturday Academy events and some evening events that include the community surrounding the school. So we wanted to make the school community hub. So providing things like financial literacy programs, STEM, computer classes. I used to offer ballet and African dance and sports related things. So we would do that a couple of Saturdays out of the month. Everything was free and open to the public. At that time, I provided free hot breakfast and lunch.
Of course
And
you did.
it was great. I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of a way for me to get into the school without having to go back to get another degree. At the time, I thought, well, I want to be in a school building. I want to be a teacher. I want to be around kids, but I really don't want to have to go back to school. So I remember I was in a meeting with other navigators, and we had a guest come from Teach for America or that organization. And I remember just sitting in that meeting and saying, I know I don't want to go back to school, but I really want to be a teacher. I'm going to have to go back to school. And I applied that day. So I started my journey of becoming a teacher. I left Say Yes. I started teaching at a local charter school, which I'm still sort of connected to. I taught fifth grade. Well, even before I taught fifth grade, as soon as I finished my student teaching placement, I started there as a long-term sub in second grade. And then the pandemic hit. So I graduated December 2019, started started teaching second grade in a long-term sub capacity December 2019. And then the school that I was working at the time didn't have one-to-one devices. We thought that we were going to be out for a week, couple weeks. And then, as everyone knows, the pandemic happened. After that school year, they brought me on in a full-time capacity. I taught fifth grade, and I did that for 2 additional years. And then I was supposed to transition to another school to teach sixth grade ELA. And my current boss at Say Yes, we had known each other for a while. And she was like, well, I'm starting this program. I need you on my team. And, me, I'm very, well, I've already committed to doing something. And then they told me how much it was going to be paying. And I was like, okay, let me just move some things around.
I know that's right.
So
Okay.
I started at Say Yes in the Little Scholars program. So I'm currently the manager of curriculum instruction and development. So in my role, I oversee and supervise all our lead teachers and our substitute teachers across our 7 sites, soon to be 8 sites. And I also assist with the overall curriculum instruction team to provide professional development, to provide coaching in the classroom. Yeah, and I love it. I really enjoy coming into work every single day. I pop into classrooms here and there, but they are 3-year-olds, so that wasn't really my ministry. I liked the older children, but it's amazing to see my teaching team grow in their careers. Majority of our teaching staff are people of color, so that's always really great to see. And being able to kind of get children right at the beginning. Say Yes as a whole organization is really cradle to career. We get them at 3 years old, and if they stay with us through our various programs, we see them through college, through apprenticeship, through careers. So it's a great organization to be a part of.
And yet, you have time to have a whole nonprofit organization.
Yes.
And she do stuff for the Evolving Education Project. I don't know how, but you have this organization, Black Boys Read Too, which is so important to our theme, thinking about Black male teachers. And even though your organization, what I appreciate about it is how you're connecting Black boys with Black men mentors, in the community as well, which is connected to Black male teachers and them having role models like them. And I appreciate that you're a teacher, you were a teacher, now you're an educator, you administrator, supervisor, do all these things, curriculum director. I'm gonna give you all the titles. And you do all these things. So you have this unique, wide scope of education in and outside of schools, and the relationship between what happens in and outside of schools, and actually how we have to be partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we all play a role in the development of Black boys. So, with that being said, what led you to create Black Boys Read to, in addition to everything that with an explicit focus on Black boys, with literacy, considering everything else, your wide range of experiences, because you could have did a lot of things, but what made you focus on honing on this focus?
So when I was teaching in 5th grade, the school that I was teaching at didn't really have a school library. So I took upon myself to buy hundreds and hundreds of books for my classroom. And I was still wondering why my students were not drawn to picking the books up. Of course, they would read when it was like, okay, this is time, you have to read, you have to complete a reading log. But I didn't see them finding as much joy in reading as I remember having when I was in 5th grade or in school in general. And I noticed a real difference with my Black male students. And so I kind of just was thinking, how can I get books in the hands of my students outside of school? Because it's not enough for me to just buy hundreds of books for my classroom. And of course, I was that teacher for every little holiday. I would gift my children books instead of other things in the classroom. And I kind of just was driving home one day and I called my co-founder, who I had recently connected with. I was her mentor and then became friends. And I just remember calling her and saying, hey, it's a crazy idea. Let's put books in barbershops. And she was a school librarian at the time. So it just made sense to be able to collaborate on this type of project. And every time I mention, oh, okay, we're putting bookshelves in barbershops, everyone is so surprised. And it's not a new phenomenon. People have been putting books and magazines and all types of things in barbershops. Mm-hmm. We just wanted to curate it to be intentional. So we started with 3 bookshelves that we funded ourselves. We worked with a local artist who painted them and really tried to make them interesting and drawing to the boys that might be coming into the barbershop. And we filled them with brand new books. Part of our mission is to put books that have emphasis on Black protagonists, heroes, and role models. We don't put used books onto bookshelves. So when we launch a bookshelf, they're all brand new books. And we try to rotate them throughout the year so that each barbershop is getting new, fresh material. We don't take used book donations for the reason that usually when you're taking used book donations, you have whatever someone is kind of like left behind in their garage, their basement, cleaning out things that they don't really want anymore. We wanted to be able to provide the new releases and books that are going to be inspiring for our boys. And that's kind of just how it started. We started with 3, and then slowly people started finding out about us and asking us to put them in their barbershops. And then recently, in the last year, we've expanded outside of barbershops. So now we're in boys and girls clubs and school buildings and children's clinics, waiting rooms and hair salons. And so really anyone who wants a bookshelf, I'm happy to give them one.
So if you are in Buffalo, New York, and you want a bookshelf to encourage students to read with new books, you need to reach out to Rakaya Simmons at Black Boys Read Too. And I thought about this, and I'm really interested in the fact that you don't take used books donations. And I did not know that. So I love when I get to learn something new that I didn't like research ahead of time and know. It makes me think about segregation. It makes me think about the time period of segregation and segregated schools and how Black students would get old books from that were outdated, that were written on and just low quality as compared to like white schools. They would get their old used books. I'm not trying to make this into something that it's not, but that's where my mind went when I thought about this, not taking used books. But is there any connection to that, disrupting that practice, or does that make you think about anything, or is there any connection between that and your organization's decision not to take used books?
I think maybe indirectly. So I love that you brought that up, because now I can't wait to share that insight with my board and make that more intentional in our mission. But it's kind of, because while maybe we didn't necessarily think of it as, okay, segregation and making those connections, we always said that we wanted our children, that they deserve the best.
Yes.
And part of that is giving them the new books. If someone is starting a series and they're so excited about this story, they shouldn't have to stop reading it because they don't have access to the newest book. They should be able to read the book that is getting turned into a movie. Or they saw a movie and they're able to read the book that they love the movie so much and make the comparison. Whenever you're doing anything, when you're giving back to the community, I never want it to be just, okay, well, this is a way for me to get something out of my house, so I'm just going to donate books to this bookshelf or for the children to read. I never want it to be just kind of like an afterthought or not that important. We intentionally work with the places who have the bookshelves to find out what types of kids come in here, what types of families, what types of students are here, what are their interests. And then we try to obtain books that are directly related to that culture of that shop or that school or that community center. We have some locations that are located on the west side, and so we intentionally find books that are written in other languages. Because while it has started with being for Black boys and it is going to always have that emphasis on it, we also recognize that someone's little sister might be in the shop. Or we try to make sure that we can find books that go across different age groups. So if we know that we're going to have some board books for learning your ABCs, but we'll also have some adult books, because there's men in there who need to read as well. So we want to make sure we have everything, a little bit of everything for someone. Mm-hmm.
I love this so much. It's, oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm going to get to my other questions now because this is the best thing about doing a podcast is like when you're all prepared and you have your questions and then you invite these amazing guests and they just blow your mind and you like, oh my God, now I got to go in a whole different direction. But so many things I love that you said that just touched my heart. The fact that you don't want them to get like the leftovers. And Black students do tend to get the leftovers, especially in particular communities, right? You don't want it to be something that somebody's throwing away. And so now you get to have this and it's supposed to be new to you where, I think that that's important. I know like all of our environmentalist people and recycling people will be like, but that's okay. It is, there's a time for that. And I do think like, yes, we're not promoting being wasteful or anything, but I do think that when you're talking about young people, I feel like sometimes, which I can't stand. I'm always going to bring like the social class issue. It's like when you're adding something to a particular community that may not already have something, or maybe it used to be there and it's not there anymore. Like they should be grateful for whatever you put in their face. You should be happy we even got a bookshelf. But the thoughtfulness and the care that I feel like all children deserve, even working with a local artist to make it beautiful, to make the bookshelves beautiful, to be mindful of like, what are kids like pop culture, like what are kids watching today? What are they into today? And how can I get books that reflect what they will want to read? Like that's important. Things need to look nice. I think, though both of us are a classroom teacher, I used to see videos of your classroom. So I know your classroom always nice, but like, that's how I was when I was a teacher. Like it needs to look nice. It needs to smell good.
Yeah.
Wash them pillows every once in a while that you have. That's nice that you got pillows and a blanket and all that, but wash them sometimes. Like they deserve that and they want that. And I also love that it's contextualized. I love that you take the time to think about a particular local community and not just assuming like, well, I'm gonna get a few sports books and I'm gonna get a few this books. That's like my other guests are talking about that, in this series. There's a range of, there's Black boyhoods, right? And taking the time to learn a particular location in a particular context, to not just assume that they're all going to like the same type of books, to take into linguistic and language considerations with our different areas. But see, I think that's the beauty of focusing. This is what I think folks miss out on. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, about when you focus on a specific group, you actually help everyone. It actually benefits everyone. Like it's not like it's very hard to exclude others when you focus on a specific group. I don't know. I said a lot. Whatever you want to talk about with that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree. I think that in the beginning, when we first launched, you're always going to have some people who are going to say, well, what about the girls? Or what about this group of people or this group? And we try to stick to our mission, right? Yes, we are putting emphasis on Black boys. Why? Because statistically, they struggle to read at a reading level. Research has shown that they are usually the ones who are left behind. They're not as quick to pick up a book, because part of it is just the belief that they have that reading isn't cool. Reading isn't what boys are supposed to do. That's more girly kind of things. And oftentimes when you go into a classroom, there are a lot of books that traditionally girls would be wanting to read. You have all the Babysitter Club books. You have all of stories with a lot of strong female protagonists, which are great. Boys tend to, like you said, they end up having to stick to the sports related books or maybe some comic books here and there. We wanted to be able to have books that boys are able to see themselves in, see characters that are strong and sensitive and facing adversity, that they're artists and dancers and teachers, because books are a way for boys and people in general to be able to see themselves. And in a lot of cases, if they don't have a male role model, a book and the characters in the books can be so real that it can kind of be that role model for them. They can see that, okay, well, this character is able to be a teacher. I can be a teacher. I don't have to be a football player or a basketball player, or there's other options for me. And it allows them to start changing the narrative that they have for themselves inside. It goes into, I mean, even just like having male Black teachers, right? I know that you mentioned that and how that's really important. As being a Black woman teacher,
Right.
I can acknowledge that there's just so much that I can do, right? Because it's more than just having a teacher in front of the room that looks like you,
Yes,
right?
so much more.
You want to have teachers who can have experienced the same type of cultural experiences and can affirm you. And I can support and love on Black boys all I want, but there's just so much that I, as a woman, am able to do. So if we can't I can't give Black teachers and make Black male teachers exist in every single school building, but I can help by providing books that represent Black men in non-traditional ways.
And you're connecting them to Black men. Maybe,
Yes.
they are in schools. Maybe there's not a lot at your school, but through your organization, I feel like you're like, but look at these beautiful, brilliant, varied Black men that's in our communities that do a lot of what we like to call sometimes other fathering, right? That you can learn from, because they don't have to be a teacher for you to learn from them. But if you don't have that, here we're putting you in spaces where you can read alongside, next to, and learn from Black men as well. So one thing that I love that Ghodie Muhammad says when she gives talks sometimes we talk about like struggling readers and it's struggling instruction, right? It's struggling school systems. It's like you mentioned, you didn't even have a classroom library. It sounds like, the books that were there were mostly tailored to girls. So it's like, it's not books that they might be interested in. It's also, my work in literacy, I'm always talking about the instruction, right? Like, how are we teaching in ways and making sure our curriculum that our kids know how to read? I think I would love to hear from your perspective. What are the causes of, because I just don't believe, and I know you don't believe this, but I want to say this to our audience, that Black boys just can't read, or that there's this deficiency in them. I believe there's things that contribute to, some of them you already said, the lack of love of reading, the disengagement with reading, not proficient or whatever, or labeled as struggling readers or whatever. So what do you believe causes the cycles of illiteracy towards the love of reading among Black boys?
Well, I think that it starts younger than we think. I think a lot of people are shocked to find out that, you're only really learning how to read until you get to the third grade. And then once you're in third grade, they pivot to, now you're reading you're reading to learn. So you're learning to read, then third grade, you're reading to learn. And I oftentimes, when I have this conversation with people who, especially those who are not in education, they're surprised that we expect our children to be proficient readers by third grade. Now, I mean, I am not going to pretend to say that I am super knowledgeable about learning how to read or the science that goes behind it. But I know that when I was in the classroom in fifth grade, there was a lot of children, both boys and girls, who came to my classroom and they were not proficiently reading. And so then I was in the position as a teacher to try to find, how do I fit into my day to hit all the fifth grade material, as well as provide time to be able to pull children to teach them how to read. It's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible, because I don't think anything is impossible, but the average teacher isn't going to take the extra time to be able to do that. So I think it's a bigger system thing that we have to look at. And I don't have the answers for it, unfortunately. I think it does start with looking at literacy more than just sitting with a book for 30 minutes and reading. I try to incorporate literacy in ways of, let's read this and let's draw our favorite character. Let's write a new ending for this story. Let's act out a story. Let's use music and movement. And I think when you do that, students are viewing literacy as play. And play is kind of the backbone for learning. And I know I get to experience that every single day now that I work in a 3Y program. And I think that when teachers remember that, or if they're reminded of that incorporating play throughout their lessons, I think you'll find more buy-in. It makes it easier for you to get your student to pick up that book, because they know that they're going to be able to act out their favorite scene or create a crazy new ending with a completely different setting. So just thinking about literacy more than just doing the reading log each week and sitting down quietly for 3 minutes. Yeah, the reading log. Oh, which is the most ineffective way of teaching reading. But
I'm sure that's probably changing now with the science of reading and all that. I did an episode a while ago, just me, a single one, of talking about like what I have to say about that. But I get it, because we always want some type of checks and balances. And there are kids who take their reading logs very seriously. It's few of them, but some of them, they are like really like, oh, they take it very, and then it's just some kids, it just doesn't work for it. Like it just, it's one of those. So what I want to talk about now, and I think I don't know if that's your no, maybe it's not on your shirt.
It
It is on your shirt. Yay! Her logo. The logo is so dope. It's so beautiful and dope and cool. So tell me about your logo and what you wanted to convey through the logo, maybe how you came about creating, I'm sure working with the artist.
Mhm.
It's such a process. I noticed like logos is like you going back and forth and they're trying to make sure that they get your vision, but then you don't want to stifle the artist.
Right.
So yeah, so what were you hoping to convey through it, and how did you get to this gorgeous logo?
Thank you. Well, I wanted to make sure that I reflected boys of various colors. So if you notice in our logo, it's not just dark skinned boys or light skinned boys. We have everybody.
Mm.
And I didn't want it to just be like a stack of books. Okay.
Mm.
So in the logo, we have three boys, and coming from their minds are different worlds, essentially. And the idea is that you can read and you can go anywhere. And the themes that we did a space theme, a rocket ship, and then like an ocean theme. Those were the first three bookshelves that we did were painted in those themes. So we
Oh my
had like a black
gosh.
astronaut, and we had a black boy who was out at sea on a boat, and one who was just exploring space. And so we wanted to make sure we had that connection to it. Yeah, I often get a lot of questions about the band-aids on the face. I just wanted to reflect that, boys are rough, right? And so, put a band-aid on there, and
Yes.
no, but even in their roughness, there's still that creativity that's used from them, right from their
Mhm.
minds. So that's kind of how the
Yes.
logo was created.
Okay. I love that. And please look it up so you can see this beautiful logo. Can you show me your shirt again? Because I wanted to ask you specifically about, like, I love the way they're dressed.
Mhm.
So can you tell us about your decision to dress them in that way? Yes, you can sit down.
We just wanted it to be really casual, really approachable, make it so that almost like I feel like when you make things too specific, then it's hard for boys to be able to see themselves, right? So
Mm,
we just put them in things that any boy could wear with hopes that they will see themselves in the logo and know that we are trying to be reflective of the people that we serve.
yes, I love it. And I actually didn't have that, but I kept thinking about your logo and thinking about it. And I was like, I should ask her about the logo. But so I love it. I've always loved it. I probably should have told you that, but I've always loved it from the beginning. It's always like attracted me. The other thing I want to ask you about, so I would love for you to tell us more about, and you could take your time and take us through each of these, your barbershop bookshelf program, the barbershop book clubs, and your other literacy pop-up events. However you want to do that, just tell us about those, because I think that's so cool that your organization does that.
So the heart of Black Boys Read Too is the bookshelves. It started off with barbershops. So we were just strictly in barbershop. The idea was that barbershops culturally are a meeting place and neutral ground in a lot of pulp culture and movies and books and comics and things. Barbershops are just a meeting place for young men. And sometimes the conversations that take place in those places are not for the ears of young boys. So we wanted to make sure we had other options than just putting your child on an iPad or on the phone. So that was really how we started with barbershop. And then after a while of placing in barbershops, we had some interest from other local organizations and places saying, "Well, how can I get a bookshelf?" And so we had
Mm,
to really think about it for a while because we wanted to make sure that we were still sticking with our mission. And it's because the moment in which you make even the slightest change, sometimes the whole mission gets forgotten. And so we
yep.
try to be really intentional about where we were placing books. And even as we are expanding and placing in different community locations, we always make sure that we are still placing in barbershops. So that will always be a push to continue to expand our barbershop portion while we're also placing in other community places. So that's kind of how that started. We have a list of all the locations that we have on our website. And then there in that page is also where anyone who is interested in getting either a barbershop bookshelf or just a bookshelf in general, they can always reach out to us on that page as well. From there, we wanted to find out how we could continue to engage the barbershops that we were partnering with. So we started a barbershop book club. And we started with one of our barbershops, Fade and Full, here in Buffalo. And the team, the barbers and the team over at Fade and Full are fabulous. They were very supportive of the bookshelf and the mission. And they actually had books there as well. They were like, can we add these to your bookshelf? And so it was really great that they had already started that.
Yeah, they're already doing it. And I like that you're honoring the fact that you started off like, this is not new, because I think that's an important, respectful way to come into spaces. Like, Black folks have, you know, used hair salons and barbershops as spaces to promote literacy through magazines and all that. And like, they're like, oh, we have some too. And you're enhancing this. You're just making it, you know, better and adding activities to it and all that. So I love that.
Thank you. So we started with a barbershop book club. We read the Future Hero series, which is a kind of sci-fi type of feel where the main character finds a portal to a new world through the closet or a back room in a barbershop. And so we just thought that that would be a fantastic way to engage children who are already coming to a barbershop and making this barbershop even more magical for them through literacy. So we would meet once a week for about 6 weeks, and all the barbers would come and read alongside, and they would bring their family and things. And we actually did, I encourage everyone to look on our website, on our socials, because we did a full documentary on it, which was really nice to be able to talk to the barber and talk to the families that were coming every week to just read with us. And I remember it will always stand out to me. The first barbershop book club, we had a little boy who came in with his mother, and he was like 7. And it came to his turn to read. And when he started reading, I had to stop him. Like, are you sure you're 7? Because his reading was fantastic, and the thoughts and the questions that he asked. And I remember just being touched that I even had the ability to be able to experience that, because it gave me hope for that there are young boys who are interested in reading and asking the questions. And so it kind of affirmed our choice of doing this. And it was a really great feeling. I'll never let go of that feeling, I think. So we did that. We worked with some other locations and did the bookshelf, the barbershop book clubs. From there, we started creating other ways of inspiring literacy and reading in our community. So we would partner with local organizations and businesses to be able to make connections. So we've done like a football clinic mixed with reading. So we would do a read aloud. And then we have worked with a local school who had their football team come in and run like little football drills with the children who came, and everyone would leave with a book. And we did a read and paint event. So we worked with the local artist, and he led a painting activity related to the book that the barber read, because we hosted it at a barbershop. So we just really tried to make sure that we always connected back to the barbershop in one way or another, whether it's inviting the barbers to participate or hosting it at a barbershop. We also, another part that I always forget to mention is that not only did they leave with a copy of the book, but at the end of the sessions, so after the 6 weeks of the book club, they were able to get a free haircut that we would pay for. So it was really important to me that we're kind of servicing the whole child.
Yes.
And also pouring back into the business that is allowing us to come in and run a program.
Rakai, you just, oh my God. You just amazing me. I mean, the full circle, they get a haircut. You supporting the barbershop. Come on, community. This how you do community. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes on like, this how you do community. But I also had some questions. So this one I might say for later, but I would love to hear your thoughts more about what I was thinking about too. That I think I hope we have a different relationship. So don't think I'm bossing her around. So that's why I'm saying this, because I just think what she's doing is so great. But I think you should also promote the fact that Black boys read to welcomes boys who are readers. Black boys, because a lot of times what I find in my research is that when I do research with students who are labeled as struggling readers, they're like, well, yeah, I when I'm at home, I read this, but they don't really want to hear that in school. Or I was someone who was labeled as a struggling reader in schools, but at my church, I was writing plays. I was reading the King James Version Bible, the Thou Shalt, and interpreting, honey. So how come I wasn't literate in school? You know what I mean? Or why was I a struggling reader in school and I was doing harder stuff and creative things and stuff like that? And so I think, you know, when we talk about like boyhoods, right? And a lot of different types of Black boys, right? And even the boys that we think fit in these more stereotypical roles of Black boys, what we see, they do have literacies, even if it's not welcomed in school. And I feel like your organization welcomes that. Like they get to see barbers, black men barbers, like reading and being excited about reading, coming together for a book club, and to have a space where you're welcoming their ideas about a text, seeing them as brilliant, you know, drawing it out. And all kids have that, right? It's the kids that have a command of the language and they read a lot and their parents talk to them a lot and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And that's, we want to welcome those kids because sometimes they don't get a space. I've even worked in schools where I've seen white teachers like resent the fact of the smart, articulate, chatty Black boy. Like they like you to sit there and not say nothing, right? And it's like, what do you want? Do you want them to be like, you want them to be participating in reading, or you don't want them to? Then you got one that's like with it and got it, and then he getting on your nerves. Like, what do you want? Like, or you just don't like this smart, articulate Black boy. So then they just gonna sit there and not say nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it's like, I feel like your organization is so beautiful because it welcomes the kids that may need more support, and also the students who would love for their literate identities to be recognized, to be celebrated, to be welcomed. And I just think that's what I see in your organization. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that it's really important to welcome everyone. And even in just the way that we would do our book clubs, everyone was asked to read, but we didn't tell you how much you had to read. So we would have some people some kids who would come in and they're going to read pages and pages and pages. And then others who might just want to read a paragraph. And we welcomed anyone to read as much as or as little as they want, as long as they tried. And it was wonderful because in the beginning, everyone's always a little bit nervous. But as the weeks go on, they start to encourage each other. And that's really great to see. You see the ones who are really strong in reading, who are helping the one sitting next to them sound it out. And I think that's something that we don't often see in class. Because in class, the kids are trying to, like, these are their friends and they are worried that they might feel some type of way about them. And then you have the teacher who's in front of them and trying to keep the lesson going. And if you have a teacher in the room, like how you mentioned, where they might resent the Black boy who is really brilliant and smart and articulate, then he might not want to continue to be cool. He doesn't want to continue to do that. So then he starts to lessen himself. Whereas in the book club, everyone is coming because they want to be there.
Right.
So they're free to be exactly who they are, which is nice. And it's refreshing, especially when I was still a classroom teacher at the time. I would see the difference because sometimes I would take some of my students with me to the book club. And it was just so interesting to see how they act in the class versus how they react at the book club. I think the location and who's in the room makes a difference.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you one final question because we are at time. Is there anything that this was just so wonderful. I'm so grateful for you to be here and that I got to speak with you in this. We're always talking about the Evolving Education Project, but like just about the important work that you're doing in your organization. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Maybe future goals, or maybe something that came to mind that you didn't get to say, but this conversation is making you think about? Anything that you want to leave us with?
I guess, Black Boys Read Too, the heart of it was just trying to change the narrative. We have the privilege of, we're an organization that can celebrate and focus on the joy. I think a lot of times organizations are started to fix a problem and it's kind of more rooted into the negative piece of it. Whereas while we are fixing a problem, we're able to celebrate joy and have fun and laugh together. And I think that's it's a passion project. I mean, like you said, I have a lot of things going on and I don't make any money
Listen, that's what I be trying to tell people. Listen, we doing the Lord's work, right? We do. It's a passion. It definitely is a passion project, and
It's a heart
yes,
project, and
it is.
so I think in the past year, I've been working to build capacity. We had some shifts in leadership. And so now we're rebuilding our board and volunteers and things. And I guess I would just leave it with a call for action. So if you are someone who has a Black boy in their life, and try to make sure that they have books available to them, whether that's taking them to the library or purchasing a book. I think that means more to them than they would come off and say. And then creating safe spaces for our boys to be able to read, right? Because it's not enough to just give them a book. We have to make it safe for them to feel like they can do this and they can see themselves, and inspires them to make those changes in their lives. And getting involved, of course. So whether that's, of course, I have to say, go to our website and follow us on social. And
yes, please.
If you feel so inclined, donating.
Yes.
Whether that's monetarily, or we have an Amazon wish list. So sometimes people don't want to just give money and not know necessarily where their money is going, I guess. But if you are more of a person who likes to donate tangible things, we do have an Amazon wish list that we update regularly and purchase books there, and it gets shipped directly to us. So you don't even have to worry about picking up and dropping off. And yeah, just sharing our story, telling a friend to tell a friend to follow us. And yeah.
Yay! Oh, thank you, Rakaya. This was so wonderful. Like, I'm already getting excited. I have to stay in a moment, but I'm already like, oh my gosh, when I edit this and then I do my little synopsis blurb when it's over, I'm always like, oh, I need to make sure I put that in the synopsis blurb. I need to do that. I need to make sure. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. I learned so much. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful for you. You are just a real one. You've always been consistent in that area with really caring about communities, always being a learner, and you're just excellent. Like, I'm sorry. She's just that girl. She's just that. And so I look up to you in so many ways, and you inspire me, and I just want you to keep going. And I'm excited to get this out there and get people to support. You've already been getting it out there, but even more. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I will see you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye. It is rare that I get the opportunity to discuss the work of someone who I already work with so closely. Thank you, Rakaya, for allowing me to learn more about your work with Black Boys Read Too. Recognizing that children are already coming to barbershops while building on the Black traditions of reading in barbershops and hair salons, this organization found a way to make the barbershop a more magical place for boys through literacy. I especially appreciate that while they are attempting to solve a problem in reading for Black boys, they are still celebrating joy instead of just focusing on the negative aspects of a larger phenomenon. If you reside in Buffalo, New York, please reach out to Rakaya Simmons if you would like a bookshelf in your establishment. Thank you for listening to part 4 of our Black Boy Masculinities, Play, Literacies, and Black Male Teachers series. If something from this episode resonates with you, please share it with others and let us know via social media or through our website, evolvingeducationproject.com. You can find the book and book series mentioned in this episode linked in the show notes, as well as the Amazon wish list for Black Boys Read Too and their documentary. Be sure to tune in for our new series next week. Trust, you do not want to miss it. To find out more about the Evolving Education Project, to write in, or to join our listserv, check us out at evolvingeducationproject.com. And please subscribe to this podcast and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are currently transitioning from X to Blue Sky. If you can only choose one, please follow us on Instagram and love all of our posts. Support that doesn't cost a dime. If you've been enjoying our podcast, you can also support us by writing a review. 5-star and favorable reviews help more educators, organizers, families, communities, and activists find us. We hope to continue to cultivate an authentic audience and community. We want you to help us to evolve over time and shape what this could be. Now that you know what we're about, let us know what you want to learn more about, authors that you would like us to interview, discussions you would like to have. Okay, that's all for now, good people. We out.